I'm talking about the investments that could change the world, and I will try to have the presentation here. Okay. So I have to organize myself with a technique here on place. So I will start with an introduction. Dear participants of the ACATIS Value Conference, I would like to welcome you to this year's event. Once again, we have prepared an interesting and exciting program with presentations of new technologies, investment opportunities. I'm sure that you will learn a lot of interesting and worth-known things. I wish you an inspiring and informative conference. Thank you. This text was created by a computer, by artificial intelligence. I just gave them some topics, value conference, and some topics. And the computer chooses this text, it reproduces this text. I could choose between some texts that are more, that are happy, some more serious. You can just choose some options, and that's the text, the result. I think it's really memorable. So it's called Neurofresh, a company that is working in that. Some years ago we had a text from Goethe, and this sounds really, really appropriate. I could have translated this to a spoken text, and it's everything done by a computer. I think this is a huge step forward. There are people here that maybe don't know it. Since 1940 we are offering these asset managers. Our oldest one is 25 years old. And we seek systematically undervalued companies with strong business and business models. We have a value approach which we are now future orientating to the 21st century, and we are further developing. And the world is now very dynamic, and this logic behind, we try to bring it to the new world. We are offering value equity funds, value bond funds, value mixed funds, and value sustainability funds. And since 2016, we have the first fund based on artificial intelligence. Even in the USA, it's not offers, and after a couple of years of learning, we know that we have got a very good outperformance with our in-house established and designed models. A lot of talk about that. Some are not capable in doing that, and we are very successful. And the under management is 12 billion, so the crisis is hitting, but still we can work with that. Again, we see here the global fund. Just to remember you, these are 9.3% per year, and right now we have like a little bit turned back, so the market are really reflecting these numbers, and this is due to the ecological change in the world, and that is driving the economy. And that's the topic of today. I would like in the first part to resume all the pessimist aspects, and in the second part of my presentation I would like to show you the driver of the world. And the railway in Europe is giving us an example. The net is being created in 30-40 years, and there were wars at the beginning of the 19th century. We had in Germany a union, and a union of the German different countries, and we had got the Republic of 1848, so the politics were ups and down. And this time the technology of the railway were developed and was more dominant than any political change. And this is my idea: the technology and and the economy is the stronger factor, even with these political crises. I have lived major crises. I'm born 57. I'm thinking of the Six-Day War in Israel. This was spectacular and dramatic. I saw that on TV. And 68, the invasion of Russia and Czechoslovakia, the images of the tanks in Prague. Every time we think that the world is getting down. In 72, the Club of Rome. I remember this book, The Limits of the Growth, and we remember these big cars that are that need a lot of gasoline, and we thought at that time that we have only 30 years to go, and we had the oil embargo in 73. We lived that, and in 79 while I was studying in the US, and there were several days where some cars couldn't drive around and the gas stations were full. Then we had got the Vietnam War, which was affecting the economy, and the inflation was increasing, and we had got even 16-17% of interest, and this was really near to the wall then. 87, the great stock market crash. I didn't lived it because I had got options at this time, so we earned good money. And after that we went to Chemie on vacation. So we had got a big crisis, but even good chances at this moment. Johannes, I think you were there, yes. We had a small investor pool, and I was really surprised that nobody was happy because I earned some money at that time. And 1990, the collapse of the Eastern Bloc, and we had an Eastern Germany company, and they had new money. They were really surprised in using this new German money, and the images of the German embassy in Hungary. This was really impressive, and this was really. After 30 years, we are living a return from this time, a return to this time. And then we had the internet hype, the subprime crisis, and the ongoing crisis step in Southern Europe, and Corona crisis since 2 years, and now the current invasion of the Ukraine. And deep inside, we know it's really a perfect storm. It's dramatic. I live it in a dramatic way. Different factors are coming together. I've never lived that. We have got China at the moment. They want to dominate, and they are isolating themselves, and they don't want to supply other countries. And it's getting more and more autocratic. We are living that. 160 container ships in front of Shanghai. We are living that. China's problems are our problems. We have got the topic Russia and Ukraine. This is a real change. The thesis was that Russia is aggressive, but they are following their rules. And they have changed.
Russia has now turned out to be a partner that cannot be relied on in contracts, that is aggressive. Turkey, Hungary before that. And then the story in Georgia, Azerbaijan. You thought this is a local conflict, but now it's just around the corner. And we know that Europe has to reorientate itself, that is actually expanding towards the east, and NATO is that we actually do not take our liberties for granted. We want to defend ourselves, and in consequence, Russia, in the long run, will weaken and will turn towards the east. And then supply chain, that's a big one. And the Middle East is always there. The over-indebtedness, inflation, interest, corona, and climate change. All of that happening at the same time, a perfect storm. And for each one of those, I have pictures, I have images. For China, well, what we have to expect from China is this. They have to open up. They cannot act in an isolated fashion. And at the moment, we have a country that is isolating itself. You don't see people in Shanghai. The ports are shut down, and the infection rates are so low that this must end up in a mass infection. They haven't had vaccination campaigns. The country will have to open up, and eventually they will then vaccinate everybody in order to be able to participate in the world at large. Corona, that's one thing. And the other one is that they are being excluded from the international capital markets. With Alibaba, they were hammering on that. They were doing a lot of pressure on institutions of learnings. That's against the codes of the West. They were excluded. And the Chinese, of course, they need a capital market. They have to open up. If not, that country will not be able to function anymore. And I think that they will use Hong Kong to have access to the capital market. And I think that the Chinese capital market will come back, will be strengthened. And the official statements by the government point into that direction. And then people can travel again, goods can travel again, and things will normalize. Russia, Ukraine, well, I said Putin's endgame. Well, he miscalculated. He took on too much. And from what is happening now, the embargoes, the supply chain discontinuation, Russia is weakened. I mean, look at the car industry. Lada has now been taken on by the Russians again. The Russian aviation industry is coming to a standstill because they don't get any parts anymore. The country is being cut off from modern technology. It must face east. They have a lot of raw materials that we need, of course, and a welcome partner for China will, for Russia will be China, and they will in fact turn towards China. Yeah, and raw material supplier for China and India. India has always been on good terms with Russia, arms deals with them, and Russia will turn towards India and China. That may be the end of Great Russia. And the neighboring nations are nibbling away. Japan, they claim their rights on some of the islands, and we saw it in Irkutsk, where many Chinese lived. There are Chinese hotels, and well, the Karelia Island, will that be part of Finland again? And it could be that the old great Russian Empire will in fact be shrinking. In the West, that means that we have to be more defensive, better armies, and we have to change our energy supplies. I mean, we simply cannot do this decade by decade. We have to do that faster. So supply chains, you know the issues. We had the Suez Canal with that one ship that was blocking the canal, the microchips that didn't get here. Corona, Ukraine, they showed how dependent we are on global supply chains, and we have been for the past 30 years. Single sourcing, local sourcing, that is coming to an end. Global sourcing will be out. It will be regionalized. You look at Tesla in Brandenburg, look at the Tesla plant in China. You see the new Intel fabrication sites in Europe, and they put two of them at 10 billion each. We're getting closer, but that of course takes money. We will have shorter supply chains, but it will be more expensive. And then we have the issue of the Middle East. We don't even listen to that, but the problem is still there. We haven't heard a thing about Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, ISIS, Syria, Yemen, but that conflict is on. It's still continuing. None of it has been resolved. And I think that world climate change is doing its part to that. Global warming. So we had, the Fertile Crescent before, from the Lebanon all the way to Euphrates and Tigris. That used to be the origin of modern agriculture in the past 10,000 years. The domestication of animals is from there, husbandry. I think wheat actually comes from that. Spelt, actually. I'm thinking of my wife's recipes when we cook together. And the bread that we love eating. And that is coming to an end with global warming. And that is a driver for these areas. It's a region that cannot feed itself, that will get to be tumultuous. And then you have people who want to leave their countries and come here. And then we're talking about over-indebtedness. That has been with us, because the sum of all debts is always zero. So whatever you owe, somebody else has as an active item. So we have seen in the past years that all of that doesn't mean, if the central bank gets indebted, who cares? It's modern monetary theory. It doesn't mean anything. But then there are those who want to get money, others who take on debts, and then the question is, are the creditors getting their money back or not? And look at the financing of the American and the European budgets by the central banks. The central bank give them money, and then we get small writs, and these are writs of debt. And do we get something for these documents? That the states may say, okay, we don't really see that you are able to pay, maybe you don't have to pay, but the inflation, that is a problem. The inflation doesn't help them to get out of the dilemma. The old debts are eaten up by inflation, and at the end of the day, everybody who has been giving away money, creditors, if it is federal bonds, funds, all of those are paying a price for the fact that the debt level has risen so much. And inflation is the price we pay. And the question is, who is going to pay up when we're talking about inflation? There is some kind of a race between the different parties. On the one hand, you have those who have money, and then you have those who have debts. Inflation is good for those who are indebted. They are benefiting from debts. Some of them are states, some of them are companies, and then there are companies, and then there are individuals who've taken on a loan for buying a house. And then you have the state, the companies, the central bank. For the state, that's good, because of inflation, money comes rolling in, and debts become less important. The companies profit from it because they can pass these increases on until they get to pay the bill eventually, when they have to build a new factory and they simply don't have the money for that. And those who have been relying on old pension plans, they are the ones who are really in trouble, because the promises that have been made, they get it physically, but of course the money is worth less. So in this game of inflation, of rising inflation, who's winning? And therefore I say, for these future themes, there are those things that where we have a positive development. I think that's the only way to resolve these issues. We of course have the problem of oil. energy scarcity. It's a bit more than what it normally would be, but energy costs are rising, and we need to change this when it comes to sustainable energy. The times that we just take it out of the ground, that's over. And we have the field of metals, aluminum, copper, steel. Steel gets more expensive. We want to do it in a clean way, exactly the same with aluminum and copper. Anywhere in the world, people use electricity. Whenever you have an electric cable, you need copper. And that is going to be one of those scarce goods and will remain so for the next 50 years. And the last chart here is the development of agricultural raw materials. Right now, with our money, we are buying away the wheat that countries in Africa need so urgently. But there are revolutions also in agriculture. Things are happening. That's not our issue today, but it can be resolved. And if you look at interests, inflation, and stock exchange, where are we at the moment? This is complicated, but it's great if you look at it. On the horizontal axis, you have the profits from pension funds. The US here from 18, I don't know what. So, and you see where are the rates on average, share price. So the expensive ones are at the top, the cheap ones are at the bottom, and you see when the interests are high, I'll use the pointer on the right-hand side on the bottom, you see when the interests are up, then the costs are low. And we are at this point here where the yellow point is in the middle. And what we're seeing now is the expectation that interests will rise and therefore the cost will go down. We have this comfort zone, which is gray, where you feel okay. In the middle, the interest rates are acceptable. And we, of course, have the profits at the end. If the interests go down, you will see that. And this is something that has to worry us more than Ukraine or whatever you have. These are the expectations for the interest development, and the central banks have to decide, do I actually raise the interest rates, which will kill the economy, or do I leave it like that and then kill the power of acquisition? So what do you do? Once you call the spirits, you will not be able to get rid of them. At the end, they will probably decide on letting it run, because there are so many problems at the moment and the economy needs to be supported. And which country would really want to kill the economy for an inflationary balancing? So we will see some at the end of the year. And then people say, okay, that's fine now, we have suffered enough. And then that will continue like that. I'm not an economist, but I think this is probably what's going to happen. Something similar is happening to the inflation rate. We have the inflation rate here at the bottom.
So we are still on the comfort zone. Moderate inflation is good for the share, and if we are in deflation, and as well as we are in inflation, it's the right area. So the balance is suffering. So we are living in this optimum. 2-3% is good. 8% is dangerous. So that's inflation is so not good. So the inflation comes a little bit later, but the share prices are increasing generally. So the new infection, we are mentally, well, in the post-pandemic area, most of you are since mask here. I forgot that we need a mask because we arrived by bus and we still needed to take on a mask. But the next Omicron variant is still coming to us. It's coming to us. This is like the distribution of the variants which are dominant, and they're still coming the next and the next Delta. Well, we started with Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, and then Omicron. So here we are. Alpha, Beta, Gamma, the 3 Delta variants, and then the next Omicron. So you can see that one substitutes the next one, and the next one could be very dangerous. Oh, we have a new infection, these monkeypox. They are right now in Great Britain. I don't know if they are dangerous or not. So the sicknesses are part of a human being. Some are strong, some are hard to survive, and others not. So this topic will still be there. We have got climate change. A long time we talked about if climate change is really a fact, and 20 years ago we were in the valleys area, couldn't trees solve this problem, and now we see the differences of temperatures, and we know that it is obvious that there is a climate change. And now we have got people here from India. They are telling us about about the climate problems in India, and it's impressive. In the USA, we want to travel to a lake and it's dried out, so we see really dramatic changes. This does not mean that it will heat up here, but on the bigger scale, we have a problem. Some islands will be and this is flooded, and this will be a big topic that we will talk about today. The greenhouse gas emission will increase. 2020 was a good year, but still 21 we had really better values, but now we are again back on track, and I see the different climate councils talking about some solutions, but I don't see any changes. I appreciate that the emissions are still there and that they are increasing. I appreciate some political declaration, but not this urge that is behind. Europe is really trying to fight this. That's the clear blue bloc. US American also try to fight it. And where are the emissions from China? So if we are not working together globally and being serious with this topic, we cannot find a solution. And we as an investor, we have no moral, and we have moral, and we can really sell these climate intensive companies. This is an oil well, in Nigeria, we have sailed an old oil property, and the climate balance of the company is getting better. Me, as an investor, I'm happy. But after selling this part of the private equity, well, we have got an increase before the sale, after the sale. So private equity of the same company, of this oil field, then we see these this fire. So we have to be extremely carefully that with our good actions, we are not destroying more. So there is not only a good conscience necessary, we need to think about it through and not being in the comfort zone only. And this image here, where come the greenhouse gas emission? Well, we see here the different sources of the chemical industry, of the transport, etc., agriculture, which is the green part. And of course, we can switch off the heating. This helps a little bit, and we can, stop to run around with the car. But we need to focus on the whole industry. If we are in Germany, just stop to produce coal and use coal in power plants. There are no real earnings behind, so we need to earn really a massive reduction in general. Hydrogen, you know this image already from me. There are big investments in place. So to give, maybe you know this pig iron, this raw iron, this is Fe2O3. So we can produce steel without oxygen. So that's how we produce it. And today we are doing this with CO2, so it's a synthetic gas. So CO is added, and then we have got raw iron. That's how we are working right now, where we can do it in a different way, including hydrogen. And the hydrogen is grabbing the oxygen atoms, and that's how we can produce steel. And it hasn't to do something about with the heating of the oven. It's about chemical processes. And how do we get hydrogen? We have got dirty hydrogen, or I get water plus energies, for instance sun energy, and I produce hydrogen and oxygen. And there's a project that are promoted right now where we are investing. This is the clean way to get to achieve our goal, and these are only chemical processes that we have to change, and it has nothing to do with goodwill. It's just a change in the plant, new plants that costs millions. So that's how it works. So being a little bit quicker, this costs money. And of course we can talk that I have focused on all problems of the world. There are some more problems, but it sounds very dramatic. I still think this is a change, a chance and a change. There are always opportunities to buy. We can make money with these chances. So overvaluated shares, we earned money. And so I can position myself differently and earn money with it. So of course with China we can start with China. The market entry is very cheap. Pinduoduo, and internet service provider, and offered a lot of opportunities apart from Alibaba. Ukraine invasion. We can get into seeds, fertilizers, and sunflower seeds. Kernel, for instance, it's a Ukrainian company for sunflower seeds, and we still haven't invested there, but there are opportunities. The country will survive and will work, and we can really invest in a focused manner. And invest the money in a place where we need it soon. So supply chain difficulties. We have got these opportunities, and or in logistics or in some technical equipment. And they are really in the semiconductor, for instance, and they are earning good money right now. The over-indebtedness. So, for instance, Intrum, they're a debt collector, and it's good business. We have iTrax crossover. These are on companies that are at the limit. I can earn money with that, just with companies having debts, and then I can invest in an ETF. Inflation. I don't have to accept it. 2018 and last year we have had inflation products. It's a call option in the price index. The 2018 product, it's 30 years of the price index, and last year 5-year index, and we have got really good, made good business with that. Corona. So infections will not disappear. BioNTech has got 3.7 billion of winning. We have the malaria, HIV, and the cancer research. So we don't have to suffer it. We can really earn money with it. And climate change, and this is the big topic of this afternoon. We can sell emission certificate. We can start with the hydrogen business. So all topics where we earn money with good companies fighting the climate change. So when should we do that? Beforehand, I showed the macro image with all negative aspect. China, Ukraine, it's really cruel. And there are technological researches that are really revolutioning. It's similar to the railway system, even with war and political difficulties. They were established. And having a further look on the companies, I don't see any effect of this political crisis. Most of the companies are working systematically on their research programs, accelerating them even. And those companies in some couple of years will be better and economically speaking stronger. So 2 companies we will represent this afternoon. Blockchain. We have got 2 presentations in favor and against blockchain. Then the power of the computer chips, the understanding the biology better, the materials and the process of production, to understand them better, the technology of surfaces. So when shall we start? So for us, when will we start as investors? That's like Amazon. These were the first years, and negative benefits. And then the benefits are increasing, and then they are getting into the winning zone and have got really a long run beforehand. So today we have got some company here in crossover area where the development is still on place, and we are waiting that we have got in a couple of years we will get into the benefit area and have a long run in front.
The question is, who is going to be the winner at the end of the day? We are talking about equality of opportunities in an open world market. I feel that in many industry, also in the blockchain cryptocoin industry, those companies will be the winners who have the world market in their hands. Coinbase, when they started, it was democracy for everybody. Everybody was able to join in. Anybody could sell anything they wanted on their website. And could put in its man-made and homemade little things. At the moment, this is dominated by some of the really big players, and that's how I see it in some of the industries. In the Bitcoin blockchain world, it's the big guys who will dominate. And in all industries, you have 2 or 3 good players, the Amazons of tomorrow, and those we have to identify. Talking about data, look at the exponential growth of data. The processing power is increasing exponentially. Artificial intelligence, you see this in the field of autonomous driving. And these are some sources from NVIDIA. In the past, I give him a couple of images, let him run on a computer-based simulation for a few hundred kilometers, and then it will learn it, and that's how it is. As to autonomous driving, it sees the lane in the center, it sees and can read signs, and then we have a program that measures the distance. These are the blue lines with ultrasound, and then it has another program that measures the distances, and then another program that centers on intersections, and probably 10 more of those. And what are the passengers doing? They look at the sound. If you hear an alarm, is that real? Is this coming from the radio? And with that, you have an overall image which gives the information for the autonomous driving. So this is the image of a Mercedes-Benz that has now been registered for driving on the road. Just wait a few years, that's going to be everyday business. Yeah, language recognition, neuroflash. This is a very target text in the future. We're all a part of the future, and we have the power to form it if we cooperate and work on solutions when we want to create a peaceful world, blah, blah, blah. Of these texts, we will have more of those because they're written by computers. There is no big sense in it. But the machines are able to do that. They can read it. They can have comments on that. And we have movies made by computers. And the IKEA catalog, it's not photographed, it's from a computer. Film sequences are computer-based. So our artificial intelligence is also used to change biology. Protein structures can be forecast. I fill in a gene sequence and then I know how many proteins come out of it. With that, I can design antibodies. And these are big advances. I know I'm too slow, I'm sorry. I'm getting a sign here that I have to rush a bit. And these are expenses for health. And this is actually the point where I should stop and introduce our speakers. If not, I will run out of time. But just a few short examples for the metals. When we're talking about hydrogen, one of our clients pointed it out to us. One of the big benefiters of hydrogen boom. 4.5, more than 10% benefit range. This is one of the companies that will be forging the hydrogen business in Australia, Argentina, Africa with the solar energy. They produce hydrogen, put it on boats, ship it, and make it possible. And what I just showed as a vision, these are companies that are actually doing it. Yeah, they already have a deal with E.ON, 5 billion tons, and so on. And these companies are far ahead of the politicians, and of course the political framework has to be set. And they are at it already. And the next one is fuel cells. Even before they went public, and now they're getting in the orders big time. So we have the first commercial fuel cell in 2003, and look what is happening now. So ideas turn into real projects, and we find them all over the place. That's why I'm not worried about the future. I see real possibilities. Let's take a look at the program. Some of it has been turned into a program today. Bitcoin and blockchain is represented here with two presentations, pro and con. Professor Dr. Philip Sandner, he will talk in favor of Bitcoin and blockchain 6 years after they started. It's a great development. He sees it in a very positive way. ACATIS since 2016 has been invested in Bitcoin. Right now we're in a bit of a slump. It doesn't matter. We will show you later our company's view of it. Yeah, and then you have Felix von Leitner. He will tell you exactly the opposite. He says it's great technology, but we don't need it. Others have already resolved these issues, and this is somebody looking for a problem. This is a computer guy, and he wanted to show an image. Look at the image here. Let's hear what he has to say. So we have a pro and a con. And then in the afternoon, after our lunch break, we have 3 presentations on climate change. In one way, I said, bury my carbon dioxide at the bottom of the fjord. And then I look at companies that say, and we know ACA. They have been around for quite some time. Oil and gas, they have these oil platforms, and they call themselves Aker Horizons. And then there's another one called Aker Carbon Capture. Carbon dioxide, well, I'll buy it. I will actually buy it from you, and then I will bury it in the ground. We're talking about fracking, how difficult all that is, and they say, yeah, we can do it. So we have a map here where they actually put it, Aker Horizons. So you see these areas here, Bergen in Norway, and then they actually bury it underwater in the ground at the bottom of the sea, and they say, we have a lot of space, you know, where we've got out the oil, lots of cavities. Great company. They're not only talking about it, they're actually doing it. So it's an interesting group. I would like to invest much more. And incredible. They actually take on the future and do something about it. And if I look at the promoted programs in Europe, it's all, in a very small way, but they're doing it big time. And they have an upper limit for the price of carbon dioxide. Unfortunately, the person is sick with corona right now, but he will come in via video. And now let's talk about cement. Yeah, that is one of the big polluters. It's because of the chemical process of how you make cement. You have the furnaces, and then they produce CO2. The building industry is horrible for that. That's a fact. But then there's a French company, and they say, hey, we can do green cement, 80% less CO2. It's a small company. They're not big yet. And Jérôme Caron is going to join us from France, and he will talk about his company called Hoffmann Green Cement. It's not only the German who think green, the French have quite a bit on offer. And then a very concrete and pragmatic topic. And then we got this paper for a note as ACATIS, how to actually capture CO2. We have an easing for it already. we have Goldman Sachs, they have proposals. We will, for all the companies that we have in our portfolio, we are trying to calculate how much they emit greenhouse gases. We buy it into a fund and put it into a foundation and throw away the keys. So these emissions certificates cannot be used for a second time. And in the funds where we're actually doing it and we want to expand it, they can be effectively climate neutral. It's not the aim of the 1.2 degrees. We actually take away their emissions. Why did it take so long? How can we make sure that an emission will not go back into the circle? We simply have to throw away the key. So Professor Dr. Ahlinger and Dr. Jesper Neite will talk to us about that. And the last input this afternoon, I once participated in an exhibition of in our art society. It was about plants, and then there was a book there called Bioeconomics for Beginners. Interesting. Beer, bread, yeast. I mean, these are areas where we know that we put yeast to use. And I thought, where do we still use biology in industrial processes, in yeast and so on, industrially? And I asked Mr. Pete, the publisher, and he told me to talk to Mr. Herzberg. And he looks at different areas where this is put to use. I'm looking forward to that. Something completely different at the end, but very, very interesting for sure. I will jump over this one. I'd like to summarize. We are getting greedy. Some of these top companies, they have actually lost a lot, 60% down, even though they actually did everything right. Like Mr. Buffett said, be fearful when others are greedy, but be greedy when others are fearful. So when you have these market changes, you have opportunities, great chances. These are real companies that make real money. We are not influenced by the mood of the market. We are thinking about it, of course, but at the end of the day, it's those companies that drive the world economy forward, not the politicians. We want to invest in companies that we trust to be able to dominate the market, and that is what counts. And I'd like to pass the floor to Ms. Wohlfeil. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the presentations.
So thanks a lot, Dr. Leber. So we're really getting greedy generally. I'm sorry, I cannot interpret this part. There's no microphone used by the participant. So two questions about inflation and copper price. Copper is really a big topic. We can maybe change it with graphene. So about the inflation, we were working sensationally. The fonds in Atini and ACATIS Value Performer and the other fonds where we want to reassure, we applied them and we had to sell. So we had 2% included because the 10% were sold out, and it worked fine. So yes, and we will maintain this because the inflation will be still in place, and I'm looking for more performance. Okay. Please stay in front. If you have got a question, well, we can continue with that. We have afterwards the break, so we are still in the flow. Something you want to mention? Okay, so that's all. So now we have got a special moment. So, okay, the audience is more important than the moderation. So, today, officially, from my husband, we'll get a little bit of chocolate for his presentation. Thanks a lot. Mrs. Wohlfeil has doubt about that. If only our external presentators get chocolate also from sweet candies from Omaha. Big Warren Buffett announced 50-ton Seas candy chocolate had been carried to Omaha, and we and our team, we have taken some kilos with us. So far, I always thought, well, he will get the chocolate at the evening, but now, today, so have a look. It looks a new outfit. Looks perfect to you. So, a very good image. Thanks a lot.